Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Quit, episode 10. I can't believe it, 10 episodes. Remember, guys, this podcast is where we sit down with people who refuse to give up. All right. Refuse to back down, refuse to let circumstances define who they become. Every week, we talk to leaders, fathers, we talk to mothers, athletes, pastors, entrepreneurs, people who've been hit with life, like all of us, pushed to the edge and still choose to rise. Because at the end of the day, greatness isn't about talent. It's about endurance. It's about staying in the fight when everything in you wants to quit. And today we have a man who embodies that. My guest today is someone whose life is literally a living example of purpose, resilience, and calling. He's a husband, a father of four, a leader in both the corporate world and the faith community. He serves families at Fidelity Investments. He pastors at the City of Joy Life Enrichment Center. He mentors young men through Dreams Academy. He teaches financial literacy, and he still finds time to pour into people one-on-one. He raised three daughters who earned full tuition scholarships, that's academically and athletically, and he's been recognized with the Martin Luther King Significant African American Male Award for his impact in the city of Akron. This is a man who shows up, a man who leads from the front, a man who could have quit many times, but didn't. And today, we get to hear what shaped him, what sustains him, and what Beyond the Quit truly means in his life. Andrae Hampton, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Pete. I really appreciate the invite. And sometimes it's hard to hear the intros like, wow, I did a little bit here. You sometimes don't always think about all the different things you're involved in when you're in the moment, but definitely appreciate the invite. I feel honored to be a part. I know we'll probably talk about our history a little bit, but it's just good to fellowship with you. And I just think we're just going to let some people in on a conversation we'd like to have with one another.
You already know that, Dre. No, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining once again. We're going to jump right into it, actually. I like to start this podcast, like I do all my podcasts, with the same question. What's one moment in your life when you wanted to quit, but you didn't?
I always got to be, I love this because I love being an open book because I think that's the only way you can really help people is when you can even say, show your scars, show the moments you've been through. I went through a pretty difficult divorce back in 2008, and it just came at a time in my life where I thought things were going so well from job and um, just things were going well, young family, and then to go through that and just experience all of the aftermath of it. Um, just was it was difficult, and there was moments I definitely wanted to quit where it didn't seem worth it. Life didn't seem worth it. Um, you look for all the answers in the wrong places, and then you really can hit rock bottom, and you
Mm,
have that choice. And do you quit? And like the one thing I kind of like to say to myself is the only way things get better is if I don't quit. Like things can't get better by quitting. Um, you can't change your situation just by quitting. So if you really want to change, can't quit. Got to move forward. So that was definitely a difficult time, but I love the fact of the just the rebound from it and what really too from a perspective, what God can do in your life when you really rely on Him, trust in Him. I really feel faith is an important part of that as well because I tell people this all the time. I'm definitely like to consider myself a believer. I like being a believer more than being called religious or, you know,
mm,
because I have a faith that there's a lot of things that are out of my control, but
right.
I have an ability to speak to the one that's in control of everything. And so as long as I have that, I have a chance. I have a shot, and I know he's working everything out. I feel for anyone who doesn't have faith in something. I'd rather you have faith in any religion you can find, but just have faith. Like faith is so important, but I believe the more faith you have, you'll get to the right place. But it's just awesome to have something that you believe in that will motivate you. It's so important.
I like that ending. I like that. I know we're going to do a deeper
Mhm.
dive with that, Dre, in terms of your faith and perseverance, pushing through, motivation, dedication, the whole thing. Um, who was young Dre? What shaped him as a man? And this is before the titles, roles, responsibilities. Who were you?
I got to give so much of a shout out to my parents. They were such an influence. And, when you're younger, you don't always understand everything that they're trying to instill in you. But I had parents that went out of their way to make sure that I was loved. They went out of their way to make sure we could have everything that they could afford or do. They went out of their way for me and my brother. I didn't really fully appreciate it until I started having a family myself and
Mm,
understand the pressures, understand the hurts and all the struggles that you can go through as a parent. And I really watched them and I saw their faith, you know, with the different things, me and my brother both going to college and we were in college at the same time and, things they experienced and the sacrifices they made in order for me to have a lot of things that, and I was thinking about this the other day, how I know there was a lot of things my parents didn't have growing up that they wanted to make sure me and my brother had. And then
right.
I'm seeing that even now, there's things I want my children to have, and there's a motivating behind that. But it's just, I have to say, as a young person, trying to find who I am, trying to figure it all out, my parents played a major role in just making sure, like, I didn't have to wonder if I was loved. And I think that's a big one.
Mm,
And it's something I want my kids to understand. You can always come home. Never having that feeling like I don't know if I can face my parents. And
mm,
that's like,
mm.
no, my parents really showed that to me throughout my life.
Wow, that's strong. So you said that you never had to wonder if you were loved. Was it just a norm? Like you didn't even think about it? Like when did that was a normalcy in the Hampton household? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had my mother would, I think about this now, even when we at Mount Union, and I would get the care packages.
Mm,
And granted, I would love the fact that it was some candy in there or like some sweets or something like that. But then there'd be that roll of quarters for my laundry. But there'd always be this little handwritten note
yes.
that would say, just know you're loved.
Wow.
Know that you're loved.
Mm,
And those were moments where I would get some of those things in college when I might not be feeling the greatest.
mhm.
And it would just be the little short words, you know, and then also with the scripture, trusting the Lord in all thy ways, and leading. Like, listen, I could sit here. I know, and I'm not going to preach today. I'm not going to do that. I like to talk
This
and
is your
teach and
time,
do.
Dre. You do what you feel. You do what you
But
feel.
I tell you, um, those little things were huge for me. And then even I moved away after college. I moved to Chicago right after college 'cause I just had to get out on my own and do all that. And it was the same thing. It was just they wanted to make sure they knew I was loved, and I don't think we talk about that enough um, for our children.
Mm,
And I know we'll probably get into it as we talk about the mentorship program I'm involved with. I just think it's so important for kids to know that, and there's an innate nature that's been placed in us that needs to be filled with love, and that's the only thing that can fill it. And unfortunately, many times we'll look for other things to fill it, to fill that void
mm.
that can only be filled with love.
Yes. Yes. So, husband, father, pastor, mentor, what part of your identity developed first? What do you think?
Ooh, well, I tell you what, the pastoring part was definitely the last thing,
Mm,
because I ran from that. Never, that was not something I strived for, wanted. My father, he's a retired pastor, bishop. My brother pastors a church. Now I'm an assistant pastor, so I got to give a big shout out to my bishop, Bishop Maceo Smith, because he really bears the brunt of running, leading City of Joy, and I just had the pleasure of being able to assist. But that was something I saw the impact of being a pastor where I saw where my father couldn't always be at my games, or we'd have a family
mm,
vacation scheduled. Somebody would pass away. He's got to do the funeral. Vacation is canceled. And and as a kid, you can be very insensitive at that point because you're not thinking about this other family who's lost someone. You're thinking about your vacation that's been canceled. And so there was a lot of things throughout my life there that I didn't see being a pastor as a career path or something I would want to do.
mhm.
Um, but it's really more of a calling. I do believe that there's something that is placed in you to be able to do this. I don't think I'm special in any kind of way, but I know there's some things God put in me to be able to be a pastor and to be one that I know for me, I don't know why. Let me say this the right way. Like, I'm not always trying to look like a
Mm,
pastor, or like I like when people say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." Like,
okay. Okay.
because I don't want to have the look of it. I want you to feel it by how I treat you and how
Mm,
that will show more to me than what I wear or how my hair is. Some people can't deal with maybe a pastor having some locks out here, but.
mhm,
But I'd rather relate to those who that means something to and who they feel they don't get the attention from certain pastors or certain church figures. So it's just to me something that over time I had to be uh, the Lord had to put my arm in behind my back a few times to push me in that area. But I've always had a love for finances and financial services. So getting involved in that now for about 20 years, that's where I'm got my investment license and now working with Fidelity Investments. I really enjoy that. And as you mentioned before, being able to help people in my current role, I'm more of a problem solver. So
okay.
I don't do a whole lot more as far as with the actual the sitting down and breaking down budgets and those kind of things anymore. I've had my experience with that, but now I'm more when my phone rings, it's because there's a problem. There's something that didn't happen. There's a transfer of money coming. There's something happening that didn't happen right. And I get that pleasure of getting it back together, getting it right. So I do deal with a lot of from time to time some upset folks.
Yeah. You like
And
that better though? Do you like that better than what you did?
yeah, I actually do. I actually do.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, most of the time when you have a customer that's upset about something, it's mostly justified because something didn't happen right, and you got to have that ability to not take it personal. And that's something I just let people know. I'm here to help you. And uh, I had somebody the other day tell me too, you got a voice for radio. That's when I really turn it on, Pete. I can really turn it on sometimes because sometimes you need that for these
Right.
folks when they really upset. But
Uh-huh.
and I
I
did
like
a
it.
little bit of radio at WRMU,
Did you?
back in the day.
When?
Yeah, Mount Union, man. Yeah, yeah. Spent a little
No, you
time in the
didn't.
radio department.
Did you?
You know what though? It was later on though. It was more like my
Okay.
junior, senior year. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
91.1. No, let me stop.
And I would
But
tell us there, you know what, all I
I
would have to
tell
do is
you,
walk to the glass and put my face in there, make a funny
yeah,
face or something. I would just try to make you laugh or mess up somehow. I know I would. I won't even hesitate.
I definitely could have done it back then. I could have done it back. We were too silly. We're too silly.
Right. No, right. Exactly.
I should bring up our performance. I think I may have that on VHS somewhere.
Yeah. Where are they? Where are those
Boys and
at?
Men,
I
full
think about
full
that all the
jean,
time,
full
Dre.
jean shirts, jeans.
Yes. Hey, we were clean. Nobody could say nothing to us.
I have to mention something I kind of did mention a little bit earlier, but there's only one way to see things get better. That's with no quitting, no quit. Like you cannot, things won't get better by quitting. Um, and that's the thing I have to even remind myself. It's not like I got this thing all together and do it right every time, but got to remind myself that when these weights of life and as they say now, life be life and all those things,
Oh yeah.
you just can't quit. There's people depending, there's a family depending, and instead of letting that just be all pressure, it's opportunity as well to really not quit. Show them, give them an example that they can rely on and look back to. The same way I mentioned my parents earlier, that I could
Mhm.
look back and see that would be a really nice legacy to leave.
How has your faith carried you, Dre?
Well, I say many times it's not just carry me, it's pick me up. Because I've had so many second chances. I've had so many opportunities to get back up. And I think, I've had a chance to talk to individuals when working with Dreams Academy. And one of the things we do is allow them to exchange letters with people who are incarcerated. And it's interesting to always hear the stories of those who are incarcerated, and it was just like one bad moment. Their lives were going on, you would think pretty normally, but then one bad decision to one bad reaction to an issue, and now their lives changed forever. And it's awesome when they're able to share that with the kids and talk to them from that aspect of don't make those same decisions. You don't need to learn this one by doing it. You can learn it just by hearing from me
Right.
about controlling your temper, controlling the words you say, understanding that, your actions have consequences and just making better choices.
I totally agree with that. Actions have consequences. So we'll talk about the Dream Academy, of course, but I just had a question. You said you have the students write to those that are incarcerated. Do they ever write back or do they ever get any
Yes,
dialogue?
yes. So it actually, that's how it starts off. We would get the letters. It started off with just one sentence. Like if you could, this was given to the inmates, if
Uh-huh.
you could share something with a young man, and these kids are all middle school and high school age, and it is geared towards young black men, young black boys, and a majority are single family homes being raised by their mothers or family members, and it was just an opportunity for those that were incarcerated to say, if you could say one thing, if you could share one thing, and the majority of them would go into their story of what happened and why they're, in prison at this point. And then there was the opportunity to respond, where even some drew pictures and just to even encourage our children, to encourage them in their situations, that even in their situations, for many of it, they're going to get out at some
Mhm.
point, and it's still life to live. So it was an awesome exchange
Oh,
between the two.
wow.
Mhm,
So you lead in many different ways, obviously
mhm.
through the church, your career, at home, with any of those, and you can pick any story, share whatever you want, but with any of those, have you led when you were struggling yourself or wanting to quit yourself?
Pete, that's the I tell you, and that's one of the difficult things too. Ooh, man, I just matter of picking which one.
Uh-huh.
Because I can tell you from, wanting to be there for your children while you're hurting, you really, and I wish there was a way I could really articulate it when you are really feeling like you're at your wit's end, and then your child needs you.
Yes.
And you have to go to that place. There's a place that only that circumstance can take you to, where you find some energy, you find some extra to be able to, in a sense, ignore what you're going through in that moment to be there for someone else.
Hmm.
And I tell you, it's one of those things where it'd be easy to say, I'm tired right now. I can't deal with this. But I almost kind of take it all the way back. I still remember, my children when I had never changed a diaper before
What?
until I had my first child.
Oh,
I
okay.
hadn't changed, I hadn't changed any diapers as as a young man,
Right.
until I had my first child.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having that anxiety of thinking about it. And then the first time I had to deal with that with my baby girl, I didn't even think about it because I
Mm.
just saw, and I'd say like this, just because I can relate it. I saw the mess and I wanted to clean her up. I wanted her to be better. I
Okay.
wanted her to be okay.
Like it.
It didn't matter what she was in.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her to be okay. And I feel like in that example, it just carries on. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be moments where you have to ignore the circumstance, the situation, but you need to help get things better. And as men, that weight falls heavily with all the things of the expectations that come, and unfortunately can come a lot of times with very little recognition and very little thank yous,
The fact.
very little appreciation. There's an appreciation that does come, and it's not always in the way you might expect it,
Mm-hmm.
but it does come, and it's worth it in the end. I see it even in my parents down there in their 80s, where there's an appreciation I try to show them, but I see, they see the fact that, oh man, them sacrifices were worth it,
Mm.
you know, where they can see, man, I have a son, like
Mm.
my brother he's a bishop and pastoring a large congregation. See, it's a son, another, like it's the baby boy who was who I took him through, but I like my brother becoming a pastor was definitely his path, and he was gung ho and for it. But to see that come, to see all the things they sacrificed for us to go to school
Right.
and get educations, have families, I see that sometime. I'll see like they're just staring at me like, oh, that's what that is. It's so I say that because I want those moments to be able to look. And as you mentioned there, I had the honor of the fact that my three daughters
Hmm.
all have scholarships and they're in college right now. And I wish I could say I had the major thing to do with it. It's definitely a blessing. I just tried to encourage them. I just tried to encourage them. One, because I told them, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough money to send three people to
Mm.
college at the same
No,
time.
real
They're 20 months apart. Yes. So having a college junior, two college freshmen, because there's twins in there.
talk. Hmm.
Um, if I had to bear that financial burden,
Hmm.
I just don't know. I don't know. But the fact that my oldest was able to get a full academic scholarship, she just sent me some grades for this quarter, all A's 4.0
Woo.
in her junior year. She's doing an excellent job.
What's her major?
So she's in early childhood education. So
Okay.
she's going to be teaching the next group and wanting to go into entrepreneurship with daycares and that. So she's got some goals. She got some visions. I'm excited
Awesome.
for her.
Yeah.
Then my twins, they got volleyball scholarships and they just finished their first year
Really?
as far as their first, yeah, yeah. I thought it was gonna be basketball, but they shocked me
Uh-huh. Oh,
and
I
they
bet you
got good
did.
at volleyball. Got good at volleyball. Hey, and it was an opportunity there, and I'm just excited for them. But those are all just, it makes a lot of things worth it when you see that come like the difficult moments, difficult times are all worth it when you can
Mm.
say that extra work, those encouraging moments, they do come, they come with some rewards and they just may not always be in that moment, but it just gotta, and I'm gonna steal it, man. You just can't quit. No
Can't
quit.
quit.
To see the results of that, this has just been awesome. Now it's them getting through because
Right.
they did all the work to make it. Now there's some work to get through.
Right.
And I want to be there to support them 100% all the way.
So you touched on a lot of things there, and thanks for sharing that. I heard in
Mhm.
the very beginning some resilience there, and then it was literal, but I took it as metaphorical when you used a diaper. You don't want them in
Yes.
their mess. Kind of
Hmm.
analogy, factual, but I took that as a kind of a metaphor. I want them out of that
Yes.
mess.
Yes.
I love the way you worded that. Um, how was that taught to you, witnessed to you, forced in your life? Like where did that grow in Andre Hampton?
And, I always bring up my dad. He did so many things. Like, I remember seeing him bring flowers home for my mother. So
Mm.
that was like, that's something I'm supposed to be doing there. Cause he gave that example to see, even though he wasn't saying, Andre, this is something you do, he gave it by example just by doing it.
Right.
I have to say I was blessed to have several mentors throughout my life, and I'm not even gonna get to naming them. They know who they are.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I tell you, without having, because there's certain messages that even as a father, it's gonna be hard to get through to your children. But if they have those mentors, those coaches that can tap into those other areas that they won't listen to dad about, but they'll listen to their coach or listen to that mentor, is
Right.
so important. I was fortunate to have that in my life as well.
Okay, so you had different individuals help combine to
Hmm.
create that within you, and you molded it the way Dre needed it. Is that kind of how you see it?
Exactly. Exactly. I was one of those kids too that, my brother, he's 3, almost 4 years older than me. So there was a lot of times where I would have to go with him. So he's going to play basketball at the park. I have to go. And then being younger, they necessarily didn't want me playing, but I'm out there and I want to play. I'm here. And so those moments that we laugh about and joke about now, that really helped me because sometimes it was a matter of just watching. But then when they actually let me play and get that experience, that's mentorship. It's that opportunity to get involved, and then I just remember as I got older and taller, and there was still the age gap, but the talent gap got shorter. So,
Right, right.
it's just keep working and it'll change up. Yeah.
Give me one thing that you would give fathers today, young fathers, current fathers. They're not don't necessarily have to be young. In order to raise resilient children. I mean, you brought up your three daughters, and I know you have a
Yep.
son as well.
Hmm.
You mentor, you have a church home, you're a leader in the church world, and obviously there's kids there as well that look up to you. What's one thing as a father that you would give other fathers to help raise that resilience within the household?
You know, the number one thing I would say to any father is to know your value.
Mhm,
Know the value that you have as a man, know the value that you have as a father, and how important your role is going to be in that position. You're going to be the one that many times your daughter's going to think about when they think about who they're going to marry. They're going to think about their father and the things they did, things they saw. There's going to be so many moments where you're going to have the opportunity to influence your children in ways, like I mentioned with my father, it wasn't always with words. The biggest things were the actions.
mm,
You know, it wasn't always just the words that I was told, but it was the actions that were behind those. And if if any man can understand their value and the
mhm,
impact they can have, it just takes a little work, takes a little effort. I've had people ask me, because I essentially have three jobs
mhm,
while trying to be the husband and the father and all those things. But there's a certain energy that I get from helping people. So when you can find out that thing that gives you energy, that gives you where you don't feel like you're working, but you're working,
right,
you know, it's awesome. It's an awesome thing. Many people talk about it. You're still gonna have your tough days, your rough days, but it's you got to find that thing that feels rewarding beyond just the dollars and the cents, because those aren't always going to help your mentals. The mental part, um, of seeing a child that you helped in Dreams Academy, because now it's been around for it'll be 10 years next year in 2026, and there's been kids now that have graduated from high school, from high school.
wow,
We still waiting on college folks, but like to see some of the middle school kids now that are graduating from high school and
mhm,
saying, I had a role in that,
yeah.
and it was a small role as a mentor, but just to see them make it through is very, very rewarding.
You bring up Dreams Academy. Talk to me about that, please. How did you get involved? What I know the kind of person you are. I feel like I do, but the audience doesn't. So why did you get involved with that, mentoring specifically young African American men, and making sure
Yes.
that they follow a specific path and not a different path, if that makes sense. So talk to me about that.
And yes, I'd love to. I got to first give a huge shout out to the founder and the CEO and a fellow Mount Union graduate, Brandon Scarborough, who actually started Dreams Academy. And in the first year, he had asked me to come and do a financial literacy seminar for the kids.
Wow.
And that's what started it. That's what's just coming that first time. And to give you just like I said, a little more history on it. It started out as a mentor program just with middle school kids.
Hmm.
We had the opportunity over the years to be able to go into schools and mentor directly in the schools in Akron. Um, and then Brandon, who's very musically talented, he even had a studio at I Promise, which is LeBron James School. It's just been
Oh wow.
I could go on with the things, but I have to mention the fact that in this year, 2025, Dreams Academy became an actual school, a charter school here in the city of Akron.
Wow.
So it's just been an amazing thing over these almost 10 years now to see where it started in this small little church and just having a few kids where we're trying to make sure they know how to tie a tie,
Right.
make sure they understand how to shake somebody's hand. That's where we were
Hmm.
at, starting with. And when I came, I remember that first time I came, and I was coming from work, and because I had my little suit and tie on, coming from work, and I saw, and I was like, and at that time too, I didn't have a son. Didn't have a son. So I looked at this like, oh man, I have all daughters at this point. This is it. And I just told Brandon from there, like, whatever you need. And then over the years, that role has just grown into actual position there with Dreams Academy.
And you've been involved since day one. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are so many people that have made Dreams Academy what it is.
Hmm.
Um, I always want to take a back seat because there's so many people, even like Brandon's mother, who's man. just sacrifices in the background for Dreams Academy. And there's a lot of mentors as well that come and speak, because part of the thing we want to do is expose young black men to professional black men.
Mhm.
So we've had politicians come in. We took them to a barbershop to see entrepreneurship of a barber. I could really go on and on, but I tell you here, oh goodness, I gotta say one more thing.
Yes.
And Dreams Academy was so successful with young men, there's even another arm of it called Queens Academy now, where it's just the same thing, but for young black girls. And we
Uh,
have a great staff that are leading and doing that. So it's just been a blessing, what God's done through Dreams Academy for so many young men. Oh man, I could go on and on, but I'm definitely honored to be a part of such a great mentorship program.
if you had 60 seconds to speak to every young man in America, what would you say?
Whew, I love it. If I could tell them never to quit, understand life's gonna hit you. Life's gonna knock you down. That there is no promise ever that everything's gonna be great,
Mhm.
everything's gonna be wonderful. But I think some of those bad times make the happy times even better.
Mm.
You understand that there's gonna be the mountaintops, but there's gonna be the valleys. And I am one too that I always say, try to find the silver lining in everything. And that's difficult because you talk about things, you lose people you love, but I just always challenge, there's a silver lining in everything. There's a silver lining in everything. There's something to learn from it. There's something to tap into. If we had time, I'd really talk my very first friend in life.
Mhm.
That's why I call him my first friend. He was the guy that my mom and his mom were best friends. We were born in the same year, and
Mm.
we were friends before we knew what friends were, just
Okay.
because our moms were friends, and we just followed each other around, and we would end up going to the same grade school, all the way up. And we had so many similar experiences throughout life, but unfortunately, about 2 years ago, he took his own life,
Mm.
and I did not I couldn't just deal with it like a pastor's supposed to. And I didn't have those trying to find the right things to say. I was just hurt
Mhm.
because I just wish I could have talked to him. I wish I could have said something before he made that decision to quit.
Mhm.
Whatever that was in that moment, he had a family. He was actually even getting an opportunity to become a golf caddy on the PGA Tour. This guy,
Well,
you would think so many things were going for positive, but sometimes that's even more of the issue, is that we try to look and think everything's okay, and we don't always have those conversations and really let loose of what's happening. And I just remember from that experience, it just taught me that, because I saw, and I told you, silver lining in everything, and it's
yes.
hard, but I had an opportunity to be at that funeral, to see his children, see his
Mm.
wife, see his sister, and the times in my life where I've questioned whether life was worth it, to see what the impact was. I felt like it gave me a chance to see, Andre, this could be your family looking at you if you got to the point where you thought quitting was the answer.
Mm.
And I got to see it from a perspective, and I was like, I'm not above what my friend just went through. I'm not above that. I'm not above feeling those feelings. I'm not above that. And I need to make sure the things I'm doing, oof, I can't quit. Can't quit. I can fall. I can bump my knee. I can do like everything's not gonna be perfect. I'll make mistakes, but I can't quit. Can't quit.
I appreciate you sharing that. I know that's near and dear and uh, emotional. So thank you for sharing that piece. You
Mhm,
do bring up no quit. Obviously, that's the focal of
mhm.
this podcast, but I want to take a kind of turn to the financial aspect and the no quit.
Yes.
Why no quit is critical for families and communities in terms of the financial aspect. Can you speak as in your field, obviously,
Ooh,
why that is?
yes. I tell you, there's never been a time more, and I say that where your decisions about money, because there's never been the level of advertisement, social media, all the things that are telling you what you have right now is not enough. You need the new one, you need the best one. And I'm not one of the financial literacy people that make it seem like, well, just put all your money under a mattress and don't spend and say, no, there's a lot of things to do in life to enjoy. You just got to make sure you're not hurting yourself trying to enjoy life. and
Right.
and I always my one of my things with my financial literacy seminars is it's never about how much money you have. Never about how much you have. It's just about what you do with what you have. And so many times we're more concerned with what other people have. And social media has put it in our face to show us what this is supposed to be and how this is supposed to look. And how if I'm a young man now and I got to take a girl out, I can't take her to the Cheesecake Factory, you know. And it's like because of social media and all the negative things, it's like, wait a second.
Right.
Wait a second. What happened to let's go to the park and talk. Let's, and go to the coffee shop and have the $10 date
Right.
and get to know somebody. But there's that pressure.
Yeah.
And I say that is a pressure to spend money like never before. And people also, it leads them to make bad decisions to get more money. When you have kind of the scams that are happening and people doing things they shouldn't be doing from a financial standpoint, even with loans and credit cards, it's out of a desire to have some things that you're really not ready for yet, that you really can't afford yet. And that's the key word, it's just yet.
Right.
It's the same way if I'm trying to give my son, he's 9 years old. I would love for him to have a car. I can't give him one though. you know, I can't. He's not ready. He's not. He doesn't have the right size. But here we are, many times as 9 year olds trying to buy a car with the way we handle our finances and the way we
Mhm.
handle debt and credit cards. We
Wow.
can still do these things, just not
Mhm.
yet.
Right.
And that's one of the things my parents' generation, they had that down pat. They understood we got to save, we got to stay, we got to save, we got to save. And that was one thing my parents taught me a lot about. If I can tell you what, they didn't teach me about investing. I might have to come back to that. They didn't teach me about investing. They taught me about saving.
You're right.
And I understood that. I understood if I go without something right now, I'll have something for later. And if
Mhm.
I keep doing that consistently, I'm going to have a lot later. Okay. And it's a real simple principle, but it's hard when things are fighting for your dollars.
Mhm.
It's there's app People are willing to pay millions, really even billions of dollars for your attention to have you buy something. Your
Right.
devices are listening to you. I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but your devices are listening. They understand what you want because they see what you're looking at, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden you got to add for the thing
Oh
you was just
God.
thinking about.
Right. So
And this AI is next level.
yeah.
So if you're not mentally focused with a goal of what you're looking to achieve,
Mhm.
you will chase after things, and all the while you're just hurting yourself and putting yourself in a hole, and you're trying to please people who in most cases not even thinking about you
Amen.
and really don't care that you're spending all that money.
Right.
The things we do to impress other people with money is, like I said, oh, it's a rough one. It's a rough one.
What would you um, somebody financially illiterate or somebody just coming into money or doesn't have money, but they want money, they have a job, kind of the basics. What's the first step they should take if they want to avoid being financially stuck or are currently financially stuck? What's one thing you would tell them to do?
Pete, I love this question. Number one thing, here's the word reconcile. Why I say the word reconcile is that you need to find out where you're at really. Find out where you're at. What are you spending? How much is coming in versus how much you're spending? So you need to reconcile. You need to find out, okay, if you're spending more than you're making, how much is that? So now you're working from the aspect of knowledge, understanding where you are. I've had people say, well, my credit's bad. Well, what's bad about it? Like, what's the bad thing? Because we're gonna address it. Like, we're gonna find out. Okay, if the bad thing is a dental bill from 10 years ago, oh, we can take care of that because that doesn't reflect your current payment history. But that's a derogatory mark on your credit for something that you can't even pay. The dentist is closed. That the office doesn't even open anymore. And here you have something that's sitting on your credit from 10, 20
Hmm.
years ago. So there's many times it's reconcile. So reconcile your credit report,
Wow.
pull your credit, find out where everything is, get an idea so now you can start to work on it. That's the first step. Reconcile. Reconcile. Now I got to find out, okay, I'm in a lot of debt. How much debt? And where is the debt? I'm old school. Put it on a piece of paper. Now we got all kind of apps and things that'll help you do all that.
Yeah.
But just make sure you know where you are. And sometimes for some people that's overwhelming, but that's the starting point. It's you got to reconcile. Find out where you are in every financial area of your life. And many times, if you're really honest, we operate with our head in the sand. Like we're just gonna move forward, and I'm not even gonna think about them bad things. But there's really an opportunity to get all those things corrected and move forward and be better off financially and have a peace about finances. But it starts with reconciling.
Great advice from a professional. That's great advice, everybody. Um, let's kind of switch gears again with the faith and purpose, um, living your calling. So you've had seasons where God asked you to stay, seasons where He pushed you to grow. How do you discern the difference? Like, how do you kind of separate that or understand it?
Ooh. Well, I tell you, Pete, this is a tough one because I think it's a little bit different for everyone. But at the same time, I got one word that you want to be looking for and finding. And when you're really trying to know where you're supposed to be, I love that versus stay versus grow. And that comes down to peace.
Mm,
Peace as in Peace. Finding your peace. And many times, I tell this to my girls a lot. I want them to be analytical thinkers, and part of that means when you're making there's two different types of decisions you're gonna make. Sometimes it's about doing the right or wrong thing. There is a clear right thing to do and a wrong thing to do. I want you to be able to select the right thing, right? But then there's this other side of things where there's really no right or wrong answer. When you ask me where to go to college, there's not a right or wrong answer, but you need an informed, educated decision. That's where that analytical thinking comes in. And then where are you finding peace in those situations? So, I think about the fact there's times I was like, oh man, I want to go to, even now, I was like, look back sometimes, oh, I wish I would have went to a HBCU. Oh
mm,
man, I love how things are now. I remember visiting a couple HBCUs when I was looking for colleges, and I was unfortunately when I went to the other schools, we went to Mount Union. It was nice. We had nice things,
right.
and it made the choice a little bit easier. But I think about, well, if I didn't go to Mount Union, I wouldn't know Pete Haugabook. There's people I would know if I didn't make that decision. So it wasn't a right or wrong, but it was an informed, educated decision. Mount
Mm.
Union was the place that gave me the most money so I could go there. So when you're really trying to find where God's leading you, what decision to make, you got to find peace. You have to find peace, and especially in decisions where there's not a right or wrong answer.
What role has obedience played in you becoming the man that you are today, or called to be?
Ooh, that's another good one, Pete, because, okay, many sermon, because
Hmm.
there's a scripture that talks about obedience is better than sacrifice. And that's really key from a cultural standpoint because sacrifice was so important in I'll say in Old Testament days. There's scriptures and scriptures about the different types of sacrifices. And you would think that if I'm making my sacrifice, I'm being obedient to that. But the scripture actually says obedience is then better than sacrifice because obedience covers more than just the ritual. Sacrifice is the ritual. Obedience is the integrity. Obedience is when nobody's watching. Mini sermon, Pete. Mini
No,
sermon. And I'm
that's
gonna stop
real.
right there.
That's real.
And all over the room we're standing. Okay. But that's the truth right there. It's about the obedience of what we're going to do when nobody's watching.
What's one prayer that you prayed to Lord and Savior that was answered and changed the direction of your life? That's a large question, I
You
know,
know,
right? But
yes, but I have to say, I mentioned how when I graduated from college, I
mhm,
moved to Chicago. I had no desire. I was like, I'm not living in Akron anymore. I'm moving. I wanted to go where nobody knows me. I like some people get worried about that. I was enthused about going somewhere where nobody knew me. And yeah, my first job was in the suburb, well, really south of Chicago. And I spent 2 years out there. And then in that decision to come back home, where my parents allowed me to come back home because if I could tell the whole story, while I was in Chicago, I got into the worst debt situation you could imagine
mm,
because I was trying to keep up with the Joneses just because I had a new job, but I was trying to, and I'm inviting people out to Chicago. Come on out to Chicago. And next thing I know, I needed a second job, and I was eating hot dogs with Wonder Bread. So, so those moments, I'm serious, Pete. But
Believe you.
those moments led me to doing the financial literacy seminars. I was talking to someone about how I moved back home. I lived at home for about not I thought I had to live back home for 2 years. I had a whole little thing. When I talk about reconciling, that's what I did. I looked at all the debt. I even at one point while I was in Chicago, I did a debt consolidation, which
Hmm.
pays off all your credit cards. That's a great thing if
Yeah.
you don't go back and use them paid off credit cards, and now you double in the hole.
Right.
So somebody did that. But I mapped out it's going to take me 2 years to pay all this stuff off. My parents let me come back home. I'm living in my parents' house after living on my own in college and living on my own in Chicago. I'm back
Mm.
in mom and dad's house. But that was a huge point in my life. That's when I really also rededicated my life to Christ. There were so many positive things that happened during that time. And what I thought was going to take 2 years took about 8 months.
Wow.
Next thing I know, I was out of debt. And but it took writing some checks, Pete. This was
Hmm.
back when we was writing checks, with no online payments.
Isn't that crazy?
And I'm sitting here like, I don't even know what I'm paying off. I don't know what I bought with this. Like, I don't even remember what this was that I'm now writing to pay off. But that's one of the things I would say. It was a lot of prayer in that decision because it was a big change in my life, but it definitely paid off.
8 months, 2 years mapped out, 8 months. Look at that perseverance. Look at that dedication, motivation. I love it. What kept you moving forward on
Yes,
anything,
yes, yes.
even when it didn't make sense to keep going? So, something drove you in some aspect of your life, Dre, on something. Can you think of something big that you're like, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I gotta push through?
Yeah. I can say two quick things.
Uh-huh.
As one is faith. One is faith. I was all things work together for the good. All things work together for the good. I remember just quoting that back. All things work together for the good. So if this is one of the all things, it's going to work out for my good. Faith in that word. And then I have to say, there was a lot of times it was fear. Fear even pushed me. The fear of failing, the fear of letting people down, letting my family down. So you can take it to be a positive thing where it's not fear that's freezing me, it's fear that's pushing me to do more. And you got to be careful because you don't want it to be an unhealthy fear, but it's more about understanding the consequences of not moving forward.
Well said on that. Martin Luther King Significant African American Male Award. What's that, man? I didn't know you won that. Talk to me
You
about it.
know, that is an awesome thing that our here in Akron, our Black Women's Caucus, every year they recognize um, Black men in our city and around Northeast Ohio just for contributions they made. At the time with the mentor program, at that time too, the church was young. We were young. We're going into our 17th
Wow.
year at City of Joy, so still a young ministry,
Mhm.
but God has really blessed it with the growth and just to be recognized was an awesome feeling to say somebody noticed, somebody recognized. And sometimes, like even when you were reading the bio, you don't always think about the things you're doing, but it's awesome. It's always a wonderful thing when somebody takes the time to say thank you for what you're doing. And so to win that award was just very appreciative of that. I was really heavy into my financial literacy seminars at that point too. Um, and it was a great time. I definitely appreciate the Black Women's Caucus for being recognized for that, and they do a wonderful thing here in the city of Akron.
That's amazing, man. And you talked earlier about Black men not being recognized, or fathers or leaders not really being recognized. And that's great that you got that just acknowledgement, right? That felt good. So yeah, that thank you is important.
Right, right.
Um, we're winding down, Dre. Again, I thank you so much
Hmm.
for joining. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing your story. Thank you for opening up, man. I mean, you're just so just open with things, and I'm inspired. I'm truly inspired, and it's so good to reconnect with you. I do have one more question, and I think it's going to be a collection of the things that you answered throughout this podcast. But what does Beyond the Quit mean to you?
well, and before we do end, I got to say how much I've enjoyed the fact that one of my friends has started a podcast like this that can be something for somebody to listen to, be encouraged, be strengthened. Um, You know, I mentioned this podcast to my wife. She thought it was going to be about sports. And I was like, no, no, this no quit. Like
Right.
that
Appreciate.
is awesome.
Thank
And
you.
it takes a sacrifice as well on your part to be able to help people. And you're going to help a lot of people through this. If I could sum it all up, I mean, we talked about faith, we talked about family, we talked about finances, um, but I got to steal the words of Pete Haugabook. When you have a no quit mindset, when you really get to that point where you're not going to allow things, because I I look at you, Pete, and you're a testament to sacrifice, even just in physical form. Okay. Now, I'm not going to have the short sleeves and the medium shirt. I'm not going to do it.
It's
But my
medium.
man Pete
It's medium.
puts in. I was
Okay.
gonna say that, but I didn't want to do that. I said I gotta put it, but
No, it's
he's a
all good.
medium. He's a medium.
You're my boy.
The- but when I tell you, I see the sacrifice. I remember when I got a chance to get up to Ann Arbor up there, and just seeing you had the gym going, and then I saw how you ate your regimen,
Yes.
like the amount of meticulousness
Yeah.
on how you were preparing yourself, the discipline that
You got about
takes.
that. Yeah. You saw it all.
You're a testament to it, Pete.
I
You're
appreciate.
literally a testament to no quit.
Wow. Dre, that really did hit me, man. I appreciate that. I really do. Andrae Hampton, thank you so much for being a guest on my 10th episode of Beyond the Quit. That's a milestone for me and a milestone because I was able to do it with a true friend. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for everybody for listening. You will absolutely grab something from this. I mean, if it's not about family, it's about faith. If it's not about faith, it's about finances. If it's not about that, it's about not quitting. And Andre is a true testament to that. So, again, Dre, thank you, man.
Appreciate you, Pete. And
All
thank you
right,
for having me.
absolutely.